Good afternoon, Tom Ginn. Own Your Own Health. Today, I'm really excited to bring this broadcast to us today. We're going to be talking to a wonderful lady I've met on Be Connected. That's one of my corporate sponsors. I encourage people that are looking to expand their business reach and brand, become part of the Be Connected family. So today, I'm going to just cover why I do this program. My wife and I own a wellness center here in our community, and I've been fortunate to have a spouse that cares about health and looks at alternative methods of preventive health. And so I've been blessed to have that in my life. But my cause is really to help people to take ownership of their health. Everything from the things that we'll be talking to today with Dr. Sorensen, from our mindset all the way to what our nutrition and our diets and our hydration and sleep and exercise. Those are all key elements of having a wholesome, vibrant, healthy life. Unfortunately, here in the United States, it's probably the same in many other countries as well, is chronic illness is escalating at epidemic proportions. And today, one of the causes for chronic health issues is stress, the number one cause of my understanding. Doctor, you can correct me if I'm mistaken on that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do a quick intro, and then we'll be right back and we'll start our interview with Dr. Sorensen. We are back. I have to give gratitude and thanks to my two corporate sponsors, ASEA Redox Signaling Molecules, and Be Connected. And we're running this show today on Be Connected's live streaming platform. So I encourage you, everybody out there, to take a look at it. Today, I'd like to introduce my guest speaker, Dr. Annika Sorensen from Sweden. And today we're going to be talking about what she does. She's a medical doctor, but she's going to be talking about stress. So doctor, I'm just going to turn it over to you. Introduce yourself, a little backstory about yourself, where you're born, your journey to where you are today. I always like to hear the story and your why about what you're doing.
Thanks so much. It's so great to be here. Yes, of course. I am a medical doctor in Sweden. I'm born here, lived here all my life, although I have traveled some, so I've lived half a year in Germany and actually 1 year in the States too, many years ago. What is my mission, or why am I doing what I'm doing, and how did I get here? Yeah, that's a good question, because I have always been interested in science, in that kind of things, and I had a hard time to get into med school because my grades weren't good enough. So I had to challenge myself to become a laboratory technician. So I worked for a few years, and I tried every half year to get into med school. I tried to get into Germany. I lived there for half a year. They changed the system. I didn't get in, but I kept going. And when I was 29, I got into med school, and I just loved it. It was so much fun. I was 34 when I got my medical exam, and that's where my real story starts. why I am doing what I'm doing today, because I had a really, really tough start of my medical career, because we got a baby. We got a little girl right when I took my exam, and she had a severe genetic illness, and she died when she was only 10 weeks old.
Wow.
And 1 week before she died, my brother committed suicide. So I was in the blackest hole that you can ever imagine. And at that time, I just got my medical exam. I was going to start working. I had lots of knowledge. I had no experience, and I was in the deepest black hole. So it was tough. But I got help, and I realized I didn't kind of buy things or do other things. I just asked for time so that I could think and do things very slowly, take time with the patients when I started to seeing the patients. And slowly I learned how to stay sane with myself and to be able to see other people's sorrows and not taking it on, because when you are sad, it's contagious. So you get it on, take it on yourself. So I worked, and we got 3 more beautiful girls that today are beautiful, healthy, young ladies. We have 2 grandchildren, 1 5-year-old and 1 5-week-old.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
So I am, so you don't need to feel sorry for me for the sad story, but because I have lived a really good life, but it really changed my way. What do you say? It formed me. I didn't really realize that at that time. You don't see what you're just in it. I got these 4 babies, gave birth to these 4 babies within 6 years. So, life is hectic, very hectic. Anyway, I was working, and then one day I was just about to walk straight into the stress wall. Just, okay, it's right there. I didn't want to go in there because I've seen it with so many of the patients over the years. I had 3 kids. So I took a step back, and I took a course in stress management to save myself. That was my only purpose at that time. And that's when I realized that this is my mission. I need to help people not to become patients. Because I'm working in the primary care, so you see everyone from all walks of life and all kinds of whatever. And I realized, and I've seen from studies afterwards, that around 85% of the people coming to the healthcare clinic, the primary care, is caused by lifestyle. So there is a lot we can do.
I have a question for you. You say lifestyle. Could you expound on that a little bit for some clarity? What lifestyle? Everybody's going to have their own vision, their own thought of what that is.
Well, there are of course in different studies they focus on things, but I would say like what we call stress in general is one of the big ones, and it's all connected with not taking care of yourself by bad eating habits, bad sleeping habits, bad physical activity habits, those basic things that we need to do every day. And when you don't take care of yourself, you get all these illnesses because the body wants you to care for it. So lifestyle is very wide, and then of course some people drink and some people take drugs and stuff that they're not supposed to. but it's a very general. Most people don't care too much for themselves.
I would agree with you. Just when I talk with people, is that people only get concerned about their health when something manifests itself to where there's a position of concern. Now, what can I do to get healthy again? And a lot of things that we have that happen to us chronically can be prevented with different lifestyle. You mentioned everything from hydration, better hydration practices, exercise, better nutrition. Unfortunately, and sleep, exercise, of course, and then what you do is helping people better understand. I loved what your speech that you get a TED Talk at Penn State University, talking about the mental side and how to take control of your stress through how we think.
Yeah. Because that's what I realized at that time when I took that step back. I actually quit my job, ordinary job. I still work as a doctor, so I still been doing that all the time. But I also started to speak to companies, to work groups, to events and so on, where I talk about mindset, what stress really is, and what you can do with it with very simple actions. It's not complicated in the way it functions. The complicated thing is that we need to kind of work with our brains and our mindset to be able to do these simple things.
Yeah, the mind is an amazing thing. Our thinking does trigger biochemistry reactions. Our feel-good chemistry, I don't know the names of the different chemicals are released, but our thinking definitely dictates how we feel, and how we
Absolutely.
feel is going to determine how healthy we're going to be. And there's a lot of science in and around it. So I love the fact that you're talking about starting with the mind, starting with that. So when you're working with somebody, the traditional methodology is to doctors here in the United States refer somebody off to maybe somebody that's a counselor, psychologist, or something dealing with stress, and then prescribe pharmaceuticals. And that is, I believe we have the ability to heal ourselves, and if we have the right information. So what do you do with a client that's, they're under extreme stress, whether it's financial stress, relationship stress, job stress? There's so many things that create stress in our lives.
Absolutely. And the first thing you have to do is to sit down and see, where am I right now? There's no pills that's going to help you with any of that stuff. I mean, I do prescribe antidepressants for people who are really depressed, but that's not the first choice. The first choice is thinking and also taking walks and stuff, but that's another story. If I meet someone who is really stressed and they are kind of have a hard time even sitting still, kind of, then you have to get them to sit down and or stand up, or whatever, how they want to do it, to put down, where am I today? They have to be aware of what's going on, because if you're not aware of what's going on, you're not going to be able to do anything that's going to take you in the right direction, because you don't know where you want to go.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. There is no pill or prescription that can change the circumstance you're in.
No.
We have to recognize where that is. We can really, and most of the time, the way our human brain works is we move that fear. It's always a bigger problem than reality. And that just, triggers everything.
Yeah. And so you have to first figure out, where am I? And the I think the best way to do many of these things is to write it down, because like you said, our brain is special. It can only remember 1 or 2 or maybe 3 things at a time. And when you start thinking too many things, the first ones will fall off and you forget them and you don't get the full picture anyway. So the best way is to write it all down, because then you can look at it and you can see all these things at the same time, and you can they can be relative to each other, and you can make much better decisions if you see it. This is where I am, and then the next step is to say, okay, what do I want to do different, or where do I want to be, and write that down. And then you can start thinking, am I prepared to do this job? Because if I'm not prepared to do anything, nothing is going to happen. Nobody's going to do it for you. I'm not going to do it for them. I can't do anything for them. They just have to do it themselves. I can encourage them. I can show them the way, but they have to do the job. And if they don't want, but if they do, then we start to make a plan. And then the second step that I talk about in that talk that you referred to also, is that the second step is that you have to get energy. And the energy you get by what we talked about before. You get energy by sleeping regular, eating regularly, good food, and by physical activity. Very basic, but we are biological creatures, and that's how we function, and you can't change that either. You just have to do it right. And if you are really, really stressed, you are in that hamster wheel and you're running. And the easiest way to do things is to do the same that you have already done, always done, because that takes less energy. If you want to do different, you need to have more new energy. And that's why you have to take good care of yourself, so you have energy enough to get out of that hamster wheel.
Perfect. Words have so much power. You know, I'm an athlete, and I love coaches and how they motivate and inspire people. As you mentioned in your talk, that we're being controlled by our amygdala. It controls our fear, fight, flee, or what is it? Or freeze, right?
Yeah.
Our amygdala. And our thoughts trigger how we're going to respond. Are we going to fight it? Or are we going to resist it? Or are you going to run from it? Or are you going to freeze? And being an athlete, and I understand this from sports psychologists, that words have tremendous amount of power how we feel. Fear and excited are the exact same energy levels when we analyze them. So a lot of athletes aren't even aware of what coaches do, is they, by changing word, if your mind moves to thought of fear, move to excitement. I'm excited. The same vibration, same feeling, but we will take a different course of action because we're excited, not fearful. And fear that handles those 3 things. You're either going to fight it, you're going to run from it, or you're going to freeze. So, but excitement causes the movement in the right direction. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah, like we talked before, all feelings are contagious. So if we all feelings and actions. So if we do things that are positive and say positive things, our own brain will get into that positive loop, and the people around us will also get into that, because we give it to them. And at the same time, they can give us positive energy or negative if they start talking about negative things. And that's why you need to be with people who you like, that are on the same wavelength that you are.
Exactly.
Because you get what people give you from the outside. So you need to be strong. And also when you start doing changes, that is also very like when you have to want to do it, and then you have to have the energy, and then you can start do the things that you actually do need to change that you saw from the beginning. And it still work in your brain, in your mind, because the body only does what you tell it to. So it's always mindset work. Everything is mindset. Everything comes from here.
What you're saying here is, I'm going to ask you some of the people that influence you in understanding how the mind works, because they don't teach, it's my assumption, I'm just making an assumption, they don't teach what you're talking about in medical school, do they?
Not really.
There might be just a little sliver of knowledge or resources there, but it's not part of the overall health protocol that most doctors would apply.
No.
So with understanding how the mind works and how it affects us in our area of fear and our stress levels, who are some of the people that you have gravitated to help you better understand what you're teaching? Who are some of those people?
Well, I have been going to mentors, or both more private mentors that are not known, but one of the persons that really helped me a lot when I started my business was Brendan Burchard, if you know him.
Brendan, okay.
I went to a few of his events. Now it's some years ago, but he was a very positive person who helped me see that this is more important than what you do.
Yeah.
It's how you think is more important than what you do. And from an early stage, when like I said, I told you I went to this stress management course. It was not a medical course. It was for anyone. But with my medical education in the background, I realized very soon that this is what we need to work with, how we function as biological creatures. Because you forget that when you continue to work as a doctor, because then you just focus on the illnesses, on the disease. Yeah. We learn first how we function, basic biology, anatomy and all that, how it functions in the normal, but then that's only the first year, and then you start looking at what doesn't function. And that's what I'm trying to work against now when I work in my business and not in the healthcare. And when I do work in the healthcare, I'm supposed to do what, of course, I'm always within the law and what I'm allowed to do. But if I have a chance, I kind of give them a little hint of what I know, how they can heal better or easier or faster or whatever, depending on what it is, if I have a chance.
I appreciate what you're sharing with us today, because my background, I've been exposed to how the mind operates going back to when I first went into business for self back in 1983. So I'm going to date myself. I was introduced to Think and Grow Rich and Napoleon Hill. And my mentor at that time had us read that book weekly. And every Thursday we would have conversations around the chapters in the book. Are we applying those principles? Are we shifting? And it was amazing what that shifted my whole direction in life. And it wasn't up until about 8-9 years ago. I'm a financial coach, and I'd help people with the how-tos. Winning with money is a pretty simple process if you understand the basics, but it's behavior that changes the outcomes. So I kept seeing
it's the same with stress then.
Yeah.
Like I said.
Yeah. So it's behavior. So my financial coaching is behavior before numbers. What's your relation? How do you think about money? And I'm going to go back to what you said. First of all, you got to identify where you're at. Usually it's not as, when you step back from it or have somebody help you look at it differently, a different perspective, it's generally not going to be as fearful or as it's a small mountain compared to what you made it into. You made it to Mount Everest. In reality, it's just an anthill in perspective.
Yeah, and you focus on what has been, and you see all the bad things, and then you are fearful for what might happen, and most of it will
Never
never
happened.
ever happen. So most people live in the past or in the future, and we need to live here now.
Yeah. And I'm going to just say this, and then we can expound on it. Is in my teaching, I'm a certified consultant with Bob Proctor. You know who Bob Proctor is?
Yeah. I was gonna, when you started talking about grow and this Grow Rich
Think and
book,
Grow
I
Rich.
read that too, and I've been taking studies from Bob Proctor too in the later years. So he also, what he's saying and thinking and doing has also impacted me a lot on, or helping me to find my own voice.
Yeah. And I think if I can just say this and just have conversation around this, and you can expand on it, is like you said, you got to identify where we're at today and determine what that reality is. And maybe that's where coaching comes in, somebody like yourself, to help people look at things differently. But I also believe in this is if you know where you're at and where you want to go, you paint that mental picture of what you want and what that outcome is going to be before you obtain it. That changes that whole energy level as well. And is that what you work with them? What is the outcome that you're seeking? What is
that's the same that I talked about before, that if you get into those positive loops in your where you're going and what you see and how you do things, then your brain will be occupied with searching for solutions for what you're looking for, even though you're not actively thinking about it. It kind of works in the background.
Yeah.
And so you move towards what you want more automatically, and what you don't want is just going to be left behind because you don't focus on it. So it is about mindset. You have to control your thoughts.
Exactly.
That's what it is. And like I said, also when you start doing things and people think that it's the body that does things, but it's not. The body only does what your brain tells it to. So it's all about mindset.
Wonderful. So,
and it isn't hard in a sense. You just have to get it. And I don't call myself a coach. I call myself a mentor, because I actually do use my knowledge from my medical education and what I know how we function, so that if someone asks me, I do give the alternatives that I can see from my standpoint. And of course, people do what they want anyway. I don't tell them you have to do it this way. I just tell them you have these choices, and from a medical perspective, this one would probably be better.
Well, great. Is blending those two together is so important, to give people choices. It's their decision. They have to make a decision what they want.
Mm-hmm.
As I tell my clients when I'm working with financial, are you sick and tired of being sick and tired of being broke? And then I ask them the question, what would it look like to be financially free where you didn't have money? What do you feel? And then I get them to focus on the feeling versus the process, because the process in itself can get you stuck. The how-tos and all that get tied to the emotional outcome. And then people will automatically start doing, I found that they automatically start doing the work necessary to obtain that feeling. Because if they once we feel that, we know how to continue creating it. So our thoughts continue feeding us, and we stay at that high energy level, positive state. And then it's very simple to figure out. I believe in the vision of Dr. Miles Monroe. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
No.
He's no longer with us. He had passed away in an airplane crash, him and his wife. But he has an institute that does mind training and development, more from a spiritual side. But he wrote a book called The Power of Vision. And when we get clear on the outcomes that we want and how we want it, it makes life very, I believe this is very important. I would encourage you to look them up. Dr. Ma, when we're very clear on the outcomes we seek, our vision, it makes life easeful, not easy. No life is easy, right? There's always going to be challenges coming in, but it helps you determine, is this in alignment with your vision? The books you read, the people you hang out with, everything, it becomes very clear that doesn't align with the vision. So you can just, I call it, cast it off. So by having the vision makes life easeful. You start noticing things differently, who you want to hang with, who you want to communicate with, books you read, what movies you watch. Everything gets very clear and life becomes easeful. Nothing's in conflict with what you're seeking. Is when you have conflict, that's when you have what? Stress. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you find the task too hard, I mean, it's not about having a list that is very full. That could be it, but it can also be one task that you want to do and you find that you can't really do it because you don't have the means one way or the other. It might be a block in here, but it can also be practical. And then you have to figure out ways around it. It can also be stressful to have nothing to do because you feel worthless. And that can also start or trigger the same system in us with all those feelings and all those hormones and those negative, what do you say? Those negative rounds in us if we don't have anything to do and feel that we are not worthy of being.
Yeah.
So it's not the things. It's also kind of a mindset or something in your mind.
Yeah. So I want to sort of move to with who you work with. You know, as what reading your bio and stuff, you work with corporations and organizations, and you do talks, and you're an author as well, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, I do talks and I do workshops for. I do talks for business groups or companies. I do workshops for business leaders and their work group because they work together, or for many bosses, a leadership group.
Yeah.
And I also have actually an online course coming up, and I do speaking on events, and that could be like a morning event, it can be a lunch event, or it can be an evening event, or a day event. I mean, it doesn't really matter, and so anything from 30 minutes to a full day. That's what depends on who it is and what the reason is why they are doing it.
And with what you're doing here, you can do this virtually like we're doing here.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. I can do it in-house or online.
Okay.
No problem.
That's the beauty of technology.
Yeah, today is, I mean, that's fabulous.
Yes. So I posted up there in what you put in the chat. That's your website. What will they find there on your website?
You will find, among other things, a freebie, a free gift that I have. It's a PDF. I call it the starter kit for de-stress. It's leadership with less stress, it's called. So it's tasks that you can start doing to get your mind going in the right direction. You will also find the course that I'm starting now. It's in beta, so if anyone wants to join me, feel free. And there is, if you look at the top banner, you can see my speaker page and also a contact page.
Wonderful. Yeah, because I want to make sure that people know how to get a hold of you, so you have a contact link and everything there.
Yeah, you can
explore what your offerings are, and be inclined to reach back out to you to determine any next steps.
Absolutely.
This thing called owning your own health. Yeah, I believe every aspect of our health starts with our mindset.
Mm-hmm.
how do we look at health, and what does that mean to us? And then we start becoming curious and start looking at those things. How important is exercise? We hear it all the time, right? But if we're change our belief systems, we look at it differently and start applying the outcome. We start seeing the outcomes and feeling those outcomes. That keeps us motivated to keep it up. Because
yes, and once you have started to do exercises or eat food in a good way or get your sleeping habits in a good order, when you have that in order, it feels good to do it. So it does not feel like a chore that you need to do. It's something you want to do.
right.
But you have to start. That's the hard thing. It takes like a month or 2 months or maybe even 3 months to get into a new order of your life.
Yeah, because we are at a subconscious level. We're operating 95% or more of what we do at the subconscious level. We don't even understand. All our belief systems and life experiences are triggering how we respond or react to our environment, and that's subconsciously. And we just do it, and we think that's the norm. And
yeah, and that's what takes less energy to do the same. Like I said before, if you keep doing what you have always done, that takes less energy, but it's not going to make change.
Yeah. I'm really enjoying this conversation because a lot of times when we talk about own your own health, we're talking about modalities and nutrition and different things like this. Here we're dealing with something that we can learn by picking up a book or going to YouTube and just exploring that. And what I believe comes to control, how we control our mind, is find those common denominators throughout there's so many great teachers out there, but when you hear one speak and hear another one speak, they're saying the same thing with just a different angle, a different perspective. Truth starts speaking itself. I think that's important to start really investigating. Why do I think the way I think? What's my history? My biggest thing was when I was growing up, my parents grew up in the Depression era. So they never had any prosperity association. So it was always a lack mentality. And that was always in all their conversations, everything we did in our life was about lack and not having enough. Having a lot of money or having money is for somebody else. That's for special people, as they would probably term.
Yeah.
Somebody that's born with it, whatever the case may be. And that affected me for a long time in my business career, is that relationship with money and the belief system I had around it. When I understood that, everything shifted in my life away from lack to prosperity. And then when prosperity is not just how big my bank account is, prosperity is the quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
If we're feeling good, if we're happy, we're joyful, and we're in what I call a spiritual state. That's where we really want to be, is in that place of peace, joy, and love. That's my perspective. And how do we get there? And that's why I use gratitude as a what I call my trigger, is when I have difficulties. What am I grateful for today? What am I grateful for? I'm so grateful for this moment, this most valuable time of my life, this very moment, this conversation we're having. It's only through gratitude do we change how we look at this moment. It's going to determine what happens next moment all the way down the road. So to use principles around gratitude, have you studied gratitude?
Yeah, I think that is crucial.
Yeah, I believe
it's like all the things that we said before, that you need to find the positive, the good, and just what do you say? Indulge your brain with those good feelings, and that's gonna keep the good vibes going.
Yeah.
Around and around and around. So yes, I do work a lot with gratitude, and I talk a lot about gratitude, and I even try to do that sometimes with my patients. That's not really what I'm supposed to do when I'm in the healthcare clinic, but sometimes I can talk about when someone when I find it good to help them to see that they can be grateful for what they have.
Right.
Because in health, that's very important.
Right. Yeah, so I would recommend anybody's out, because I do a program on Fridays called G-Force, and G stands for gratitude. And one of the best books I've ever written is by Robert A. Emmons, Gratitude Works. It's amazing the science behind it and what it does with the neurochemistry and all that. And I started applying those principles in my day-to-day life. My gratitude statements and everything it changed everything. And I believe what we're talking about here today in our health, all we have to do is make a decision. We want to make a change to an outcome. We can see what we want. We know what we want. We know what we desire. And if we can get a clear mental picture of that, we'll start doing those things necessary. And I think gratitude really triggers that, staying in a positive place, so we can move. I call it the gateway to love. It opens up the doors to peace, joy, and love. And those are the vibrations. Those are the places that emotional levels that we all recognize when we hit them, right? When we have those areas of bliss, I call it bliss factors. That's where we want to try to get to, and gratitude is the first step to get there.
And like we said before, sometimes it's hard to see in yourself, and it's hard to start. So that's why you need to get a mentor or a coach or somebody to hold your hand, at least on the first steps, and then after a little while you will be self-going.
Yeah, it's just like I share with people when I work with them is my goal is that as I grow, I want to bring you with me, but hopefully I want you to grow and go off on your own. You get that path and you're on your own. So inspire them to recognize that they have the prescription right here in their mind. So,
and the good thing when you do help someone with this perspective of being grateful and looking from the positive side is that it's contagious, so it also spreads in their circles.
Exactly.
We have the ripple effects, and I think that is so beautiful.
Yes, absolutely. Great point. Is what we manifest to other people, it ripples out. So that's how we make a difference in the world, is being joyful, happy, being grateful, and recognize people's gifts and who they are is so important in our humanity. It's missing out there. So
it is. Today definitely.
Well, we're moving into about 45 minutes here. What I like to do is just a parting thought that you'd like to leave with people about stress. If you want to reestablish what is stress, what's causing it, and how to shift from a less stressful life. I don't think you'll ever get rid of stress, because
no, you can't get rid of stress, because stress is a part of our biological system. If you got rid of the stress system, you would be dead, because you can't live without it. That's the the key truth in this. So you're going to have to work with this until you die, and you better make it a good ride during those years to come. And you do that by being in the now. And taking a deep breath is one of the key things that you can do to actually calm your brain to be in the now. Not in the future, not in the past, but here. That's where you can find peace and you can think clear.
Yeah. Do you have different things you recommend people do? I've heard a lot of different things about different breathing techniques, meditation.
I use breathing as I think that's the base kind of thing. And you have to breathe, so everyone knows what it is. You just have to teach them how to use it. And then we have meditation. I call it mini meditation, and I think actually that was Brandon Burchard who taught me to say a kind word and repeat it to yourself for a while, for a minute or 10 minutes, depending on what you have. I also have the moving around, jumping up and down. That's also a way to release your brain, to get into the now and to reorganize it, to start thinking more clear. Another thing is actually you can smile. You can smile to someone else. It's contagious. Your brain will get feel-good hormones. The one you smile to get feel-good hormones. And if you don't have anyone to smile to, you have your phone. You put it in selfie mode and you smile towards yourself, and it works just as well. Or a mirror.
Okay. I'll do that one. I'm not into doing selfies, but the mirror thing I can do. Bob Proctor taught me how to do some mirror work. So
yeah. So it's all these simple things that they don't cost a thing. You have them with you. It's part of yourself. You just have to be aware of it, and to start. If you practice doing them when you're not stressed, they will come more automatic.
All right. Well, I appreciate you being here. I tell you what, 35, 45 minutes goes in a hurry, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah. So I appreciate you being on Own Your Own Health, because what you shared today, I think, is the foundational area of owning our own health is how we're in stress all the time for one reason or another. If we can minimize and eliminate as much stress as we can, we're going to live healthier, less chronic illnesses will start arising.
Absolutely.
So start there, everybody. Would be my recommendation, is seek out Dr. Sorensen. Her website's below. See what she has to offer. Take her up on her offerings. You could be able to reach her. She can communicate with you in the same sort of platform we're doing here. So with that all said, Doctor, I'm so grateful to get to know you. You're going to make a difference in the world with what you're teaching. It's so fundamentally sound. There's no argument about when people really start exploring this thing called the mind and how it works in our health. So,
yeah. Thank you for having me here. It was
a
nice conversation, really.
Wonderful. I've appreciated it. So with that, we're going to sign out. I'm going to play 2 little short videos that are my corporate spot, ASEA and Be Connected. I encourage anybody that's out there that wants to enhance their business, start developing relationships with people like Dr. Sorensen. This is a great platform to do it. Join Be Connected. So God bless everybody. Own your own health. We're signing out.